As Casey said, I'm the Toastmaster for the day. Really looking forward to this meeting. And one of my favorite parts of these meetings is the first thought of the day, which will be given by Mr. Ryan Steiner.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. My fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. Our thought of the day comes from the Star Wars universe. Hope is like the sun. If you only believe in it when you see it, you'll never make it through the night. That's Vice Admiral Holdo. Many of us have, well, I should rephrase that, all of us have experienced the same year, this past year. Many of us have experienced it in different ways. And there have been struggles, whether it's work struggles, relationship struggles, our relationships with family, with friends. Some of those relationships have changed. Some of them may have ended. There have been occasions where maybe you felt like hope was not there. Maintaining optimism and looking for the hope even when it's not visible is what helps us get us through. I would also like to add to that a quote from another person in the Star Wars universe. From the animated series Star Wars Rebels, Harrison Dula said, "We have hope, hope that things will get better," and they will. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Ryan, for doing the job that you always do. All right. I am pleased to introduce our first speaker, and it is a guest speaker, and I'm kind of shocked that we were actually able to secure somebody like this, but I'm not complaining at all. Vanessa Marshall is a voice actress who has contributed her talent to such characters as Wonder Woman and Harley Quinn, Hera in Star Wars Rebels, Gamora in Guardians of the Galaxy, and Black Canary in Young Justice. She can also be heard in video games and television promos. Today, she will speak to us about finding your voice. Vanessa.
Thank you so much. Ryan, thank you for asking me to come and share my experience, strength, and hope with you. Hope is definitely something that has been hard earned in the last year. And of course, over one's lifetime, there may be a few dark nights of the soul, and I've definitely had my own. And they are the firm foundation that I stand on today. And I think the roles that I've played are a direct reflection of that spiritual journey of empowerment. And I'm grateful to witness that and honored to voice those characters. Thank you for quoting Hera. I appreciate your diligence. My father was a news reporter, and I grew up with a grammarian on my right shoulder. So I wish my dad were here. To the topic, I taught a class a week ago about finding your voice, and it was Father's Day. And that morning I spoke to my dad, and he said, "Do you remember when you first got to college and you were crying and you said, 'Dad, my life has been so good up until now'?" And then the next day he said, "You went into the theater and you met a bunch of really cool people." He said, "I never saw you again." And he said, I hope you take away from that just when you think your life is over, it may in fact have just begun. And I love that I went to the theater, a place where stories are told, a place that to me is very sacred and very healing. And that's where I found fellowship. And in a way, I love that you guys have this for one another to help each other find your true voice and parse your words very carefully. And such attention to detail is admirable. So thank you for that. But yes, my father was a news reporter here in Los Angeles. My mom, she was on a show called Knots Landing and Dallas for many years. So I grew up sort of in the shadow of that. And what did that look like? I would get off my school bus and there would be paparazzi on the front lawn as I was eating my Ritz cracker, sort of humbly walking in my front door. It was very bizarre. So notice I said eating my Ritz cracker. I think what all that hyper visibility did for me was make me want to recede and be invisible. And I had a spiritual quest of sorts, and it went directly to the refrigerator. And so I found comfort in food and stories and isolation, and I played with my Star Wars action figures and Star Wars, the great space opera, afforded me so much hope. The hero's journey in that, when Luke, made his decision to face life and go help people instead of worrying about, the converters on the farm or whatever. That inspired me, along with Princess Leia's hair. That was everything. But I eventually, as I said, went to college, and I took up writing, and I wrote plays, and I found so much comfort in storytelling. And I went on to do that. I went to acting graduate school, where I learned how to speak in various dialects and read all the great works of literature and portrayed Masha and Shakespeare and all sorts of things. And following that, came back to Los Angeles and began studying stand-up comedy, sketch comedy. And when I created a one-woman show, a voiceover agent came and saw me in the show and said, I really think that you could do voice acting. So I went in, I auditioned for her and was signed, and that was in 1997.
He played Gamora in...
Yes, I played Gamora, indeed. In fact, I even have her little action figure right here. Green is apparently my color because here's Hera. Good times. But that's when I then got into voiceover acting. Simultaneous to that, I was discovered as a plus-size model. Here was yet another example of something that was my deepest shame. I was about 50 pounds heavier than I am right now. And a guy came up to me at a buffet table as I was clearing it and said, I really think you should model. And my response was, what, with clay? And he said, no, I'm a plus-size modeling agent. I'd love to introduce you to this whole industry. And I went into his office. He had a buffet on his table, and there were all these women who were absolutely gorgeous from the inside out. And it didn't matter what size they were. And my entire world was turned upside down. And I began to practice martial arts and accept myself exactly as I was. And I came to find a phrase that my soul is weightless. And what I mean by that is all the external pressures that I had put on myself to be perfect or to recede and be invisible, I started to play full out alongside these women who were such an inspiration to me. And again, what I thought was an atrocity became the foundation that I stood on. And I do believe that many of the characters that I came to play, Gamora and Hera and Wonder Woman, I believe that there was a shift inside myself that when I stepped up to the microphone and I was courageous enough to be vulnerable and authentic and truly own my power, sometimes it's actual humility that affords me the ability to be visible. Some people say that actors act to be seen. Some people say that they act to hide. And it takes a great deal of courage for me to be visible. But all of those moments added up to creating a voiceover career that you can see on IMDb. There are quite a few roles. And I also played She-Hulk, who happens to be green. So Jolly Green Giant may be next on the menu, I'll let you know. But having said that, I now work in all areas of voiceover, in promo, narration. I'm currently doing the television promos for Clarice. I just did a Massage Envy commercial. I do narration for ESPN. There are video games, Black Canary in Injustice, and I'm in the new Mortal Kombat game. And there are all sorts of stories that are being told in various mediums. And I am so grateful to be a part of all of them. And one of the other things that I find is very helpful is to remain an eternal student. A good friend of mine, he said that I have the skills of a pro and the heart of a rookie. And what that looks like is that I still take voiceover classes today. And people say, why are you here? You know what you're doing. And I said, because our culture is constantly shifting and changing. And the way consumers want to be spoken to. I mean, what we've been through in the last year, advertising has shifted completely. And I want to have my finger on the pulse of the stories that need to be told, the healing that needs to happen, and keeping our country going, which looks like sort of the advertising part of what I do. And I am so stimulated on a daily basis. What does a day look like? Well, first of all, I write a gratitude list. I try to focus on what's right instead of what's wrong. And I look at what is absolutely right in my life. And I start the day with the empirical evidence that one day at a time, I am becoming a better person. And that has nothing to do with weight or beauty or anything external. It has everything to do with the priceless amount of self-care, especially after this year that we've been through. Every single person needs to take care of themselves. And that's to be applauded. I start from that place, and then I look for how I can bring joy to other people and how I can have fun in the day and how I can be of service. And when I flip it on its head, there's a prayer by St. Francis of Assisi. Regardless of anyone's religious affiliation, I tend to take what I like and leave the rest in various religious areas. But he says, help me to seek to love rather than to be loved, to understand rather than to be understood, to comfort rather than to be comforted. And when I approach my professional career from that standpoint, it really takes the pressure off of how am I going to do? What am I going to get? What might I lose? How can I impress this person? When I completely shift my focus to one of being of service, the day flies by and it's a joy. And why not cooperate with that option? That is a possible way to approach the day. So that's how I start my day. And as I said, I love taking classes. I took a class with a woman, Margot Lightman. This is a great book, Long Story Short, the only storytelling guide you'll ever need. I highly recommend it. I wrote all kinds of essays. Thank you. I wrote all kinds of essays in her class, one of which I then contributed to a show called True Tales of Love and Lust. And the woman who ran the show ended up publishing the essay. Now, I will say as an aside, this very story itself is yet another example of how I thought something was horrible became something fantastic. I told a story, they asked for a dating story, and there was a guy that I knew from Princeton where I went to college. He came to my house, and long story short, he used my cat box. What? Yeah, this was an atrocity, but anyway, the telling of that story and his thinking behind said maneuver was hilarious. So once again, we never know where the gift is going to come from. In the moment, horrific. In the aftermath, hilarious. So there's all sorts of comedic fodder where we least expect it. So I encourage everyone to do that, to look for the funny in things. I did create a list for those of you who aspire to create some sort of voiceover career, or if you're curious, there are all kinds of websites that I put together on this sheet for you. D. Bradley Baker's I Want to Be a Voice Actor is perhaps the most helpful one. VO Buzz Weekly is a website where you can find all kinds of interviews with tons of voiceover people who share their secrets and their spiritual journeys. And then there are a million resources for classes, for demos, and voiceover agencies, and all the sort of little details that you might need to get your career going. I'm not sure if any of you are aspiring for voiceover, but if you have any questions, you can email me, vanessa@vanessamarshall.com. You can find me on social media at Vanessa Marshall 1138 for Instagram, and also at Van Marshall on Twitter. I just want to leave you with one final thought. This was in my daily reflection reader. There is no such thing as a problem without a gift for you in its hands, by Richard Bach. I encourage you to look for the gift. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa, for being here. This is an hour-long meeting, and you are most definitely welcome to sit in and see what an entire Toastmasters meeting looks like from start to end. But we also recognize that you do a lot, and if you do have to leave, we respect your time and value anything that you're able to give to us.
Well, you know what? I actually have another job in person that I have to drive a car and go to. What? Yeah, I know. Crazy. Yeah. So maybe I will just let you guys do your thing. I respect you so much. This is such a beautiful, wonderful thing. There's nothing more important than finding your voice and speaking out and speaking your truth. So thank you guys for doing this. And that it started with the Pledge of Allegiance is completely awesome. You had me right there.
Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thank you. Have a beautiful day. Lots of love.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And do contact me if you have any questions. Please feel free. I'm happy to help you in any way I can.
Good job.
All right. Lots of love. Bye.
Okay. Well, that was something else. Thanks again for getting that set up, Brian.